I should have divorced you years ago, I said, half out of frustration, half to see if she'd finally react. But Emily didn't even flinch. She just stood there by the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone as if my words were background noise. The same calm, detached look that had crept into her eyes months ago lingered there, mocking me. Yeah, she muttered. Maybe you should have. That's when I knew something had already died between us. 4 years our home had been filled with laughter, late-night conversations, and little rituals. Saturday morning pancakes, coffee on the porch, music while we cooked dinner. But lately, all that had faded. Now silence lived here. Silence and distance. Started small. She stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. Her texts became short, functional replies. She laughed less. And then came the phone. Always turned face down, always within reach. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. People go through phases. Jobs get stressful. Relationships hit rough patches. But something about the way she'd started dressing up for work drinks on Fridays, something about the perfume that wasn't hers, the lipstick stains she wiped off before getting home, made my stomach twist. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband digging through his wife's messages. But the not knowing was killing me. So one night, when she left her phone on the counter to shower, I gave in. Her lock code hadn't changed, at least not yet. The screen opened to a string of messages. A man's name I didn't recognize. Matt, work. Matt, you looked amazing tonight. Emily, stop, people will notice. Matt, you worry too much. I can't get you out of my head. Emily, you're trouble. Matt, then meet me again Friday night. My throat went dry. I scrolled up, heart hammering. There were weeks of messages. Flirtatious, playful, intimate. And then one that made my chest cave in. Emily, you make me feel alive again. I locked her phone and placed it exactly where I'd found it. Alive again. What did that make me then? Dead weight. A habit she'd outgrown. When she came out of the shower, hair wrapped in a towel, humming softly, I watched her like a stranger. She smiled faintly. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing. Just tired. Because that's what I did, I buried it. I wanted to believe I was wrong. That maybe I was missing context. That maybe Matt was just a flirt who she didn't take seriously. But the truth doesn't fade. It festers. 2 days later, she said she had another late meeting. Followed her. She didn't go to her office. She drove to a small hotel on the edge of town. I watched from across the street as she parked, checked her reflection in the mirror, and walked inside. 10 minutes later, a man in a dark jacket arrived. Same man from her work's annual party last year, Matt. He kissed her before they even reached the door. I remember gripping the steering wheel until my hands went numb. My vision blurred with rage and heartbreak. But I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I just sat there, watching the woman I'd built my life around walk into a hotel with someone else. When she came home that night, she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Sorry, meetings ran long." And I said, "It's fine." Because I wanted her to think she'd gotten away with it. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every smile, every lie, every excuse. When morning came, she found me in the kitchen making coffee. "Didn't sleep?" she asked. "No." She frowned. "You should try to relax more." I almost laughed at that. That's when the words slipped out, the ones I'd regret later. "I should have divorced you years ago." I said it not because I meant it, but because I wanted to see if she still cared. If there was even a flicker of remorse or guilt. But there was nothing. Just that cold, detached tone. "Maybe you should have." She left for work soon after, leaving me in a house that suddenly felt foreign. Days passed. We existed like polite strangers. She'd come home, say she was tired, and go straight to bed. I'd stay up, scrolling through old photos of us. Her laughing on our honeymoon, the way she'd fall asleep on my shoulder during movies. All lies now. Then one afternoon a white envelope arrived. From Whitaker and Low Law Offices. My stomach dropped. Inside, Petition for dissolution of marriage. Emily had filed for divorce. I sat at the kitchen table, reading the words over and over until they blurred. She hadn't even said a word about it. Not a conversation, not a warning. Just papers. When she got home that evening, I held the envelope up. "You couldn't even talk to me first," she sighed. "I didn't want a fight." "A fight?" I laughed bitterly. "You didn't want a fight, so you blindsided me with divorce papers?" She shrugged, looking anywhere but at me. "It's been over for a while, James. You said it yourself." "Because I was angry." Snap. "I said it to get a reaction. To see if there was anything left in you that cared." Her silence was my answer. The following weeks were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and sleepless nights. She moved out, taking half the furniture and most of the life we'd built together. But what haunted me most wasn't the betrayal. It was how easily she seemed to move on. No tears. No hesitation. No regret. Just a woman who'd already chosen another life. I found out later, through a mutual friend, that she and Matt had moved in together 2 months after she filed. Apparently, everyone at her office already knew. I was the last to find out. The divorce finalized quietly. I signed the last set of papers at my lawyer's office, my hands trembling slightly as I read the closing line. "This marriage is hereby dissolved." Just like that, 10 years reduced to a sentence. Afterward, I drove to the coast, parked by the water, and sat in silence for hours. Watching waves crash against the rocks, I realized I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I wasn't angry, just empty. How do you mourn someone who's still alive, just no longer yours? Months passed. I tried to rebuild. Therapy, gym, new routines. I deleted her photos but couldn't bring myself to throw away our wedding ring. It stayed in a drawer, a small, cruel reminder of everything that once was. Then, one evening as I was closing my laptop, I saw a message request on Facebook. From Emily Carter. My pulse quickened. Her message was short. "Hey, I don't expect you to reply. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve how things ended." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to type a response. Something cruel, something that would make her feel the pain she left me with. But another part of me just felt tired. So I typed back. "You made your choice. I hope he was worth it." She saw it and didn't reply. And maybe that was the closure I needed. 6 months later, I ran into her by accident at a grocery store. She looked thinner, older somehow. Her smile was polite but brittle. "How've you been?" she asked, clutching her basket like it was a shield. "I'm good," I said truthfully. "You?" She hesitated. "Things didn't work out." I nodded slowly. "I'm sorry to hear that." Her eyes softened like she wanted to say more, but I didn't give her the chance. I just smiled faintly and walked away. As I left the store, I realized something. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not vindicated, not triumphant. Just peaceful. People think betrayal destroys you, but really, it strips you bare. It forces you to rebuild from nothing, to confront the parts of yourself that were lost in loving someone who stopped loving you back. Emily thought she was escaping a stagnant marriage. Maybe in her mind she was chasing happiness. But what she really did was free me from the illusion that love without respect could survive. I still think about that morning sometimes, the one where I said, "I should have divorced you years ago." I didn't mean it then. But now I understand something. Sometimes what we say in anger ends up being the truest thing we ever speak. Because if I'd left her years ago, maybe I wouldn't have lost so much of myself trying to hold on to someone who had already let go. And yet, maybe I needed to lose her to finally find myself again. A few weeks ago, I stood by the ocean again. The same spot I'd gone to after signing the divorce papers. The same waves, the same air, but a different man. This time, I wasn't watching the past drift away. I was watching the future roll in. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd survived.